Hey, what's going on everyone? So with this video I wanted to talk a bit about the Predator franchise stands now that we've had the release of the recent film and we've seen the box office results of it, the critical reception that it's had, and also the fan reception and where things could be going with the Disney merger now that they're going to have control over that franchise as well as Alien. So the Predator had a pretty troubled production and behind the scenes situation just because the script had leaked for the film, which was essentially what they had originally shot. We do know that they went through extensive reshoots for nearly a month and pretty much retooled a lot of the film. There was also a ton of test screenings for this, so they basically tested it every other week, trying to figure out what worked, what didn't work in the edits, and ultimately it ended up with a film that just felt and reeked of too much studio meddling, which is probably why it wasn't that good. Now, had we gotten Shane Black's True Vision, the film that he had shot last year, who knows if it would have been good, but at least it would have been more or less coherent as to what he was trying to go for, because the actual film we got just seems way all over the place, editing wise, character wise. There's just things that don't even happen. I mean, there's things like Traeger's death in the movie that just doesn't even make sense, and the film hasn't done very well either at the box office. It only opened to 24 million, which is right on par with 2010's Predators, and that came out in 2010, so 8 years ago, not even adjusting for inflation. So definitely did not leave the kind of mark that Fox or Shane Black were hoping for, because if you guys remember, over the development process, Shane had always talked about wanting this film to feel like an event type film. That's why they put so much money into it, which is obviously a bad thing in retrospect, because they spent nearly 90 million alone on this film, not including the extensive reshoots and marketing campaigns. So they're at least like 150 million all in on this movie, and it's barely made just under 100 million in about 11 days. It still has yet to open up in China, but again, these are troubling numbers. It definitely won't hit 100 million domestically. It's likely going to be slowing down because Predator films are usually front loaded and they make all their cash in the opening weekend and they just kind of stumble along for the next couple weeks until the end of their domestic run. Now my question is, where does this leave the franchise? Because before this film had opened, around San Diego Comic-Con in July, producer John Davis said that they had a very ambitious plan, that the Predator was supposed to start a brand new trilogy, that they had an outline for where the story was going to go. And obviously at the end of this film, you got kind of an idea of where they wanted to go with the whole global warming thing, predators upgrading themselves, wanting to invade Earth and take the strongest DNA. And the Fugitive was trying to at least help humans prevent that from happening by giving us the Predator killer armor, which we'll talk about at some point. But obviously with the lackluster box office, none of that stuff's happening. This franchise currently is about as dead in the water as the Alien prequel films are after Covenant's disappointing box office results. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Disney is in the process of acquiring the 20th Century Fox film assets, so where does this leave the whole franchise going forward? We're likely going to be getting reboots of both of the properties, but probably not anytime soon. Predator and Alien aren't big money makers, so they're not really any kind of big draw for Disney to go with right now. Disney is probably going to be focusing on the comic book properties like Marvel characters, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Avatar, James Cameron's doing, and other big name properties. I mean, they probably will even crack Planet of the Apes again before they go to Alien and Predator. There also have been rumblings that perhaps Disney is considering an Alien streaming service show, which would be, a high budget show, something akin to Netflix or Amazon series, but set in the world of aliens, possibly focusing on colonial marines. But what would they realistically do with Predator? Realistically, I could see them easily doing something for one of their streaming services, since they will have a majority stake in Hulu. I could see them producing a lot of content for that in terms of the adult stuff, so Alien, Predator, obviously. They're not going to put it on their own Disney streaming platform because that is family friendly, but it is kind of a shame that this is the end of Fox's run on the Predator franchise in its current shape, and it kind of went out on a lull because their Predator wasn't wasn't the film that a lot of fans were expecting, and it's honestly the film that we shouldn't have gotten. You know, the Predator franchise has been really through the ringer since the original film. While many people, including myself, like Predator 2, it's safe to say that it really wasn't the big box office success or, you know, critical success that they were really hoping for after the original film. And ever since then, they just haven't been able to do it right. You know, they tried 2 AVP movies, which were pretty much awful, and didn't do anything other than to further ruin the reputation of both franchises, because they really didn't cater to what people wanted to see out of, you know, AVP stuff. There had been tons of stories in the comics and games, but they just didn't really do anything nearly interesting with the franchises. Which brings me back to my original point: what really will be the future of these franchises, namely Predator? Because I've covered tons of lore videos and stuff, you know, going over stuff from the comics and the action figures and games. Predator has a great mythology and lore behind it, and it's just a shame that we probably will never see cool stuff like that on the big screen. I mean, one of my most popular videos recently was talking about the Hive Wars Predator, who was a Yautja that survived on the Xenomorph homeworld by himself for years, and the majority of the comments on that video were people saying that, why couldn't we get something like this in a film? Why do they keep doing random stuff like, you know, the Shane Black movie? That, where does that appeal to? What fans are you trying to appeal to? Certainly not Predator fans with that type of movie. It just doesn't really feel like they have any kind of direction or knowledge of what to do with the IP. So maybe it is a good thing that we're going to be getting fresh eyes on the thing when this Disney merger closes, because you have to expect that they'll want to do something with the franchise. They're not just going to buy all these properties and just like leave half of them on the table because they're not family friendly. They're going to find people that can do them or produce them for them, you know, separate entities. So it should be interesting to see what the future is going to hold, but we definitely are not going to be getting any follow-ups on the McKenna character, the Predator killer, Olivia Munn's character, any of that stuff. That's all dead in the water at this point, because Predator just didn't make money, quite frankly. And it got terrible reviews, it got slammed by critics and fans, so it is kind of a shame that the franchise kind of just went out like that, you know. But hopefully there is some good stuff coming in the future. I'm definitely interested to see what could come of the whole merger. But drop your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you guys think about this? Where would you like to see the future of Predator content go under Disney? Would you like to see a high-budget TV series? Would you like to see original streaming movies on an upcoming platform like Hulu or something? Or do you think that Disney should just leave the franchise on ice and, you know, it's done with Predator movies? We just don't need any more. They've tried several times and it just isn't working. We'll just have the memories of the original 2 films. On a side note, I love to see somebody tackle a new AVP film, but set it in the future with Colonial Marines, because that's pretty much where this franchise should have always been. For more updates on everything Predator and pop culture, be sure to subscribe to HN Entertainment.